do have any connection issues, or if you're having any troubles with your audio, please do connect with our admin team. We have Felicia and Natalie available to assist you. So in terms of myself, my name is Lacey Fontaine. I am one of the career advisors for Career Services. In non-COVID times, I am usually based out of the St. James campus, working very closely with the business programs. But I have worked in other areas, other campuses with other programs as well. So I love working with George Brown students of all backgrounds and programs. So really, again, thank you so much for joining us today. So what we're going to be covering today, oh no, it's covering it, but this is the agenda for our session today. We're going to be going over a little bit of the revolution timeline. We're going to talk a bit about disruptive technology and automation. There's going to be a little interactive quiz that we can work on together, and then some moments about being future ready, and then again, the Q&A session at the end. So if everybody's good with that, we're going to move on to our first section, which is the revolution timeline. So before we talk about the future of work, we do have to go backwards just a little bit and look at how we're sort of repeating history every few decades, and a lot of the conversations and panic that go on every time it comes up is really something that we have experienced time and time again. So when we're looking at, how this has happened over the years, in the first industrial revolution in the 1700s, mechanization was a huge factor in the decline of agriculture. So if you think about farming all the way up until the 1900s, that was done by humans and animals, right? And as machines were replaced by humans and animals in farming, people moved to the more urban areas, learned new skills, and entered different emerging careers. So even though there were fewer farming jobs, there were more jobs somewhere else. Then when we get over to the rest of the revolutions, as we have had to over time adapt to learn new skills and adapt to the new emerging challenges at each of these stages. When the assembly line was created, factory workers turned their focus away from repetitive work and became more focused on quality assurance and oversight. In the digital revolution, human computers were replaced by machines. However, they still needed workers to use those things. So, if you've seen that movie Hidden Figures, mathematician Dorothy Vaughan is a great example of this. She transitioned herself away from human computing to becoming a very successful computer programmer. And now in the intelligence revolution, the nature of work has changed so much to become more skill-based, more need-based, and we have to continually upgrade our knowledge and skills in order to stay competitive and be able to address the new and evolving challenges that are coming up when they come up. So these are some things to think about when we're engaging in conversations about where jobs are going and where they're popping up. It's a lot easier to see where jobs are going away, but it's harder to see where new jobs are emerging because we haven't figured that yet. So something to think about is, what might that new role look like for you down the road? It really will depend on the challenges that we're facing at that time and how we need to address them. So some of the things that affect the future of work, the history of work, and then the future of work down the road is really things like demographic changes. What are the age groups? Who do we have to be taking care of? And who are the people who are doing the taking care? Urbanization and how immigration can factor into our labor market. That people even want to work changes. There is this shift away from the standard 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, and more demands on work from home options and flexibility and having a decent work-life balance that can come into play, as well as things like climate change and how having more women in the workforce has also been impacting the workplace landscape and leadership and decision making as well. And of course, the technological aspect of things, new sources of energy, robotics, AI, all of these things change the way that we work and what we work on and how. So as we are progressing through the program, even though you're just starting right now, it's important to think about how and make sure you're monitoring how are these things adapting while you're in your program, so that once you get to graduation, you know where things are currently at, and what direction things are going into as you're getting ready to graduate and move on to that next stage in your career, making sure that you're up to date on what the new challenges are and how organizations are addressing those things in that given moment, and what they're planning to do. So right now, what I'd like you to do is, if you could, in the comments, tell me what you think the term disruptive technology means. What does that term mean to you? How do you understand it at this time? I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment so that I can come back and take a look at your responses. So tell me, what does the term disruptive technology mean to you? So Sumi is saying something that changes the existing way of things. Absolutely, you're on the right track with that. Anyone else want to add anything to that? So something that changes the existing way of things. People and robots working together, absolutely. That's part of it for sure. Changes that change things for the better, absolutely, Pooja. Such a good point. So Rash says, disruptive technology to me means technology that will disrupt the status quo and cause a paradigm shift in the way that the world works, and eventually cause people to adapt to those said disruptive technologies. Very comprehensive response. Thank you so much, Arash. And Nisha says sudden evolution in technology. So those are absolutely all very, very good points. So I'm just going to come back to my presentation, and we can kind of talk a little bit more together about what that looks like, how we're talking about it. And all right, it's going back to the beginning. So definitely, a disruptive technology is one that displaces an established technology and really shakes up the industry, or a groundbreaking product that creates a completely new industry. So many of you were right on the nose with that. If you consider things like Bitcoin and what's happening with cryptocurrency right now, that's disrupting so many things. It's disrupting technology, it's disrupting finance, it's disrupting, you know, online security. It's disrupting so many things, even government, because now legislation has to come in place to figure out how do we monitor these things, and put procedures and policies in place to make sure that things are being done the correct way. So that's definitely been one huge disruptive component to our lives very recently. And then if you look at things like the electric car, very much the same thing, right? Not only is it disrupting manufacturing, it's also disrupting infrastructure, it's disrupting power and energy, it's disrupting so many different things. So when you're thinking about your own industry and what you're currently going to be pursuing, no matter what your program is, there's definitely going to be some form of disruptive technology happening, especially right now with everything that's going on with COVID. So it would be a great idea for you to start doing a little bit of research on what is that disruption looking like right now, and what are some of the solutions that are that are coming to the fore right now that may help us to address those challenges in the future using disruptive technology as well as automation. So some other things to think about when we're talking about disruption is, how has it affected the way that we live our lives? Not even necessarily just in the workplace. When we're looking at education and online courses, that's really become a bit more of a disruptive aspect to our education, because especially right now, everything is happening at home, so everyone can stay safe. So disruption is happening all around us all of the time, time, and it's important to pay attention to the changes that are happening and staying on top of how that is evolving over time. So another conversation point, and I'd love to get your insight on this as well, is what does the word automation mean to you? What comes to mind for you when you see this word, when you hear this word? Is there anything that pops up to you? If you have no idea, that is also fine. And there are many folks out there who have worked in industries that have historically not been particularly automated. So if that's something new to you, that's completely fine. But I'm going to stop sharing just for a moment so I can come back and see all of your fantastic comments. So Sumi says, technology that minimizes human effort. Absolutely. Milton Paul says machines. Arash says, to me, automation means tasks that are or will be performed by robots and AI that were once performed by humans. And Tamara says, machines and robots that perform tasks from beginning to end. Human operations replaced by machines. Mm-hmm. Labor-saving technology, absolutely, Ricardo. Such a good point. Mm-hmm. Duane says the use of science and technology to reduce human efforts, self-processing tech, absolutely. So you're all absolutely on the right track. Something that can be done by itself without needing that human interaction. So coming back to my screen, I'm just going to skip ahead to where we were. So you're absolutely right on the ball, right? Automation is really just the process of turning a manual human-driven process into an automatic machine-driven process. Now, this is not a new phenomenon. It's been happening for hundreds of years, and so is the technopanic that surrounds it. Currently, it depends on where you're looking at information, but right now the estimations are that only 5% of jobs right now are at risk of being totally automated. The rest will continue to adapt to new technologies as we have been doing for years so far, and using those new technologies to address those new challenges as they emerge. So, when you're thinking about automation, consider what happened with the stoplight, right? Before we had the stoplight, we had the traffic cops with their fancy hand signals, and then, light intersections came into play, and all of a sudden those jobs were gone. But replaced by that were the people who had to design the stoplights, and then somebody had to transport them, somebody had to install them, someone has to maintain and repair them. Now with enhanced technology, now somebody needs to program to make sure that they're not holding up traffic in the wrong ways, right? There's so many jobs that were created out of this new technology. And even more recently with the increased use of chat boxes, some customer rep positions have been removed, but so many new jobs have been created in its place by creating those tools and having to oversee them and troubleshoot as necessary. So when we're thinking about automation, as I said before, we need to be thinking about, yes, there is a job that may be being phased out, but what are all of the new jobs that are being created through that phase out process? So again, for your chosen area, what are some of the jobs that seem to be slowing down? And in contrast to that, what are some of the ones that are speeding up that would be good for you to focus on as you move forward in your program and into your career? When we're talking about those kinds of roles, which ones are more in demand, especially over these next few years and with everything that's going on, is really roles that include hybrid jobs and hybrid skill set. So hybrid jobs usually refers to roles that require tech and data skills alongside other specialized abilities. So if you think about roles like health informatics, where there is somebody who is bridging that business side, project management side, as well as the healthcare field, that's a very good example. Project managers, can do this in a lot of different specialized ways. Um, you know, uh, information systems business analysts are students that I used to work with quite frequently when I was at the Casa Loma campus. They're bridging that business side, IT side together and bringing those knowledge bases together to help move that business forward and make enhancements. So hybrid jobs are those ones that take different specializations that probably didn't historically go together and are moving forward with new ideas, new projects, and new ways of thinking by bringing those different specialties together. And doing that, hybrid skill sets, very crucial to that process. So when we're talking about hybrid skill sets, we're talking about, again, those skill sets that didn't historically go together. So even if you're looking at things like administrative assistant roles lately, you'll notice a lot more of them have requirements along, social media management skill sets, which didn't historically really exist with roles like that. So as you're looking through job postings, maybe when you're looking for your co-op or for a part-time job, or once you graduate into your career, look at how some of those job postings may have evolved to include skill sets that didn't normally fit with that type of role, and how are they using them together in a new way. So here's some examples of how this may look for you, right? So graphic designers have to have a lot of different skill sets. They need to have the technical side where they know what user interface is going to work for a certain project, how design and certain concepts and methodologies will work for the given project that they're on. But they also need to have you know s- selling and marketing skills, or they need to have management skills. There's a number of different skill sets that aren't specifically just creating graphic content that they also need to have as well in order to ensure that the end deliverable is exactly what it needs to be for that given project. Technical recruiters are another great example. Recruiters technically, historically have not been as tech savvy. They've been mostly focused on, recruitment and selection, onboarding, and all of that. And now technical recruiters need to have that specialized knowledge in IT and more technical skill sets so that they know more in depth what that role is going to demand and who is going to be the best fit for the job beyond seeing keywords, on the job posting. They need to know in depth what that role entails, how it functions, and how they need to recruit for it. So those are some examples. And then digital media marketing, obviously the same thing. They need to have a lot more understanding of the online marketing platforms and how to engage with folks in the right way online, and taking a very different approach to traditional marketing in order to make sure that what they're doing is effective. So those are some examples of bringing those different skill sets together in new and emerging ways now and beyond. So I'd love for us to take a few minutes and look at what some of the future of work jobs may look like. And what I'd like you to do is read the question. We're going to have some polls come up for you, and I'd like you to select the answer that you think is most aligned with that particular question. So if everybody's ready, we're going to get started with question number 1. So, are you physically fit, interested in tourism and travel, okay without gravity? Then this career is perfect for you. Do you think that is space tour guide? Do you think it's travel agent, scientist, or travel blog writer? So I'm going to stop sharing for a bit so I can see what's going on here. Okay. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, we've got space tour guide is the leading response, and that's exactly the correct answer. So, with Earth orbit travel likely to be an affordable luxury by the mid to late 2020s, it's predicted that a new travel industry may emerge from that. So, creating tours to show people the glory of the sunrise from space, showing interesting items of space junk and stuff like that, really giving an out of this world picture of what's accumulated over the last 60 years since we've been throwing up satellites and everything else. But somebody needs to be in charge of these tours to plan them, to execute them, to make sure that they are successful events. So, and also to explain to the space travelers what is going on. So this is exactly where space tour guide industry is likely to emerge. So you'll need to brace yourself. Space travel is going to be very demanding physically. So anybody interested in that is going to be needing to prepare themselves physically for nausea, for dizziness, all that sort of thing, being very disoriented. But if that's something that you're interested in, you can absolutely start planning for that, because it is going to be a much more feasible industry over the next few years as science and technology make it a more affordable option. All right, so next question. I'm just going to maybe put it in the chat. Let's see here. What's the next one? I'm going to put it in the chat. How's that? So here's our next one. The future will be full of robots that assist us in our daily lives. In this career, you'll be interested in sales, understanding people and their needs, highly knowledgeable of the latest technologies. So what is that career going to be? Is it Android? Is it bionic instructor? Is it robot counselor or video game consultant? So we're going to have another poll up here where you can respond of what you think that career is going to include. So which job title is that? All right, we've got robot counselor in the lead. Absolutely. So you're all on the right track. By the time we hit 2030, robots will definitely be playing a much greater part in providing home care and services than they do right now. They're still going to be expensive. Some high-end models may cost as much as as an economy car today. So new owners of these general purpose household robots will definitely be needing a little guidance in picking the right one for their home. Robot technology has reshaped home life. We've already started incorporating technology into our home life in the use of, smart assistants and everything like that. So this would just be a slight level up from what we've already got. So thanks to the big investment from companies like Google, this is something that we're going to be encountering a lot more on the home front than we have historically. Some might be a little more like humans, able to drive or cook. Some other maybe more, routine tasks like sweeping, vacuuming, etc. Just a very, very upgraded version of a Roomba, if you would. Sorry, I'm just going to take a quick sip of water. Because these home robots are going to be more like hired help or caregivers, new owners are also probably going to be experiencing some changes around the home when one's brought in. For cases where they're brought in to assist an elderly family member with daily life, the robot counselor would be something to would be somebody who would be an excellent resource for picking the right bot for that family. Also observe how the family interacts and identifies their needs with that unit, and so that they can make a wise decision about the type of robot and how they want to interact with it and what those limitations might look like. So, if the robot isn't fitting in, or if there's a family conflict that arises, that robot counselor would be heavily needed to come in and fix that and help get the family on the right path. So obviously social communication um, and technical knowledge would be very key pieces of of becoming a robot counselor in the future. Um, as their role would be counseling and in part doing sales, they would need to have those both of those that hybrid skill set in their toolbox ready to go. All right, so next one, we've got a couple more. Next one is, let me see if I can bring up the question for you. So take a look at this question and tell me what you think the role might be. So, are you interested in making our world more sustainable? This may be the career for you if you enjoy biology and science with a keen sense of observation and able to see the big picture when many factors might be involved. Is that an ecosystem auditor, a droid engineer, a Padawan learner, mental flosser, moisture farmer, or environmental wrangler? Let me know what you think this one is. So if you can just respond in the poll, that would be fantastic. Okay, so everybody got that one. Uh, so yeah, for folks who are not as familiar with an ecosystem is a group of living things like plants and animals and non-living things like air and water. So the ecosystem that surrounds us provides us with all the materials that we need to survive. However, we haven't been so great with those resources of late. So human communities can have a significant impact on the health and availability of these resources. When building cities or towns, it is the government who ensures that the electrical or water services are constructed don't damage the local ecosystem. So this role would be to assist the government in building a big picture understanding of how those communities would impact their ecosystems and to, plan and develop accordingly. So each ecosystem auditor would know how valuable the local ecosystem is, what its weaknesses are, and how the city or business might impact it in the natural world around us. So their job would be to understand, the local ecosystem and ensure that it isn't overstretched by us and causing further harm. Okay, so our last one is going to be in the chat. What role would this be? Comfortable working with data and skillful at seeing the patterns within large amounts of information. If you enjoy solving puzzles, have a strong communication skill set, and interest in understanding human behavior, this is the career for you. What is the option here? What career would this be? So folks on the fence with this one. So I love how on the fence this is, because I think it is true that in both of these roles there is going to be a big need for um, data analysis and data mining, and really being able to get big picture ideas and decision making out of those findings. For the purposes of this activity, purchase prediction analyst is the winner and is the correct answer, but I do see how those skill sets would also fall under marketing guru as well. And data chaser, I think, might just be a really great alternative term for purchase prediction analyst, but I think that you are all on the right track with that. So, looking within the next 10 years ago or so, big data has already become such a big, crucial part of business decision making, innovation, and it's where a lot of folks have already started directing their career. There's just so much information out there, and somebody needs to be able to collect, analyze, and make sense of it. So if that's something that you feel would be an interesting role for you, that is absolutely something for you to look into. So I just want to come back to my presentation. We're almost done. I just want to get a few last points in for you before we wrap up. You can continue on with your morning. So in terms of thinking about all those different roles that are emerging, thinking about the different skill sets that are going to be needed for that work, when you log off today, think about what the next actionable, tangible step in your future of work journey might look like. So think of the program that you have just enrolled in. What are the current problems in the industry that are being addressed right now? What are some of the solutions, again, like I said earlier, that are coming up and evolving over time? How are new technologies being integrated into solving those problems? And what might be expected of you as a new graduate after you finish your program that you need to plan for to be able to meet those challenges and meet those expectations? So the future of work is changing. It's important for us to begin our career journeys now and start doing that research now, so that once you do reach graduation, you will be ready for what the future of work has in store. So that's all the talking at you I have to do. These are some of our resources that are available to you as a student throughout your program. So if you need to speak with somebody about your resume or cover letter, or getting started on a LinkedIn page, do reach out to our career peer coach team. They will assist you with getting those things set up and ready to go for yourself. We have a self-directed resource hub where you can access all kinds of information related to job search, networking, professionalism, and all of those other great parts of developing your professional self. And career events, we do have a number of those throughout the year. Do make sure that you're keeping up to date on the events that we are hosting, as well as the other ones that we share. We share them on our Instagram at Careers GBC, as well as in our virtual career center here on Blackboard Collaborate, where we also share our webinars. Many of them are recorded, so if you have a class during the time that we're running our webinars, you are also able to come back and watch the recording at a future time. And then if you do need to meet with a career advisor like myself or somebody else on our team, you are able to book 1-hour sessions with us to talk about career clarity, job search, personal branding, career exploration, all of those things that you might have questions about right now and are maybe not sure where to get those answers. If you need help accessing any of these services, please do email the careercenter@georgebrown.ca. We'll also post that in the chat for you so that you have access to that. So now we'll get to the questions. If you have any outstanding questions that you wanted to talk about before we log off today, this would be a great time for us to go over those questions, see if there's anything that I can assist you with before we log off for the rest of the day. Thanks for joining, Tauhid. Oh yes, also there is a link tree to our resources and services. So if you wanted to go and find all of that information in one place, that is absolutely a link you should be clicking on now so that you can go and check those out when you have time. You're welcome, Neil. You're welcome, Aranga. You're welcome, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. I hope that I see you at some future sessions. We can chat more about maybe questions specific to your industry, specific to the questions you have around job search and branding, any of that stuff we can definitely talk about in the future. You're welcome, Anika. So Ricardo has asked, do you think that the restaurant business will make a comeback after COVID? I think it absolutely will. What that will look like, I think, remains to be seen. Obviously, there's a lot of new protocols and protections that are being put in place, not just to protect customers, but also to protect the workers as well. So what that looks like, again, that's still an evolving discussion and a problem that we're still trying to figure out how to solve. And there's different folks, folks trying to take different approaches to that and see what's going to work well. I think we will start to see more of that. In our area right now, we've only just reached stage 3 of the Ontario reopening plan. So very recently, we've only started seeing more businesses open up, and and engaging more with the public, and trying to put things in place that will work for them. Whether they're successful, whether they need to make adjustments to that, remains to be seen. I absolutely think so, Neil. I think that it will inspire disruptive ideas to run restaurants. I think that the restaurant industry is in for a bit of an overhaul, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Anika has asked, what would practical nursing or childcare be like in 2030? I do think that we will have a lot of automation and AI included in that. I don't work as closely with the health sciences program, so I know that some of my colleagues, Chris and Maria, talk a lot about what disruptive technology automation looks like in those fields, because they work more closely with those programs. But I know there are discussions right now about using robots to do a lot more um, of the legwork, of the going and getting things, so that the nurses can be a lot more face-to-face present with their patients, and providing more effective care, and being able to respond to patient needs a lot more quicker. Um, in terms of childcare, I mean, what that might look like, it's hard to say, because right now, there's so many restrictions on childcare. It's a very vulnerable population. I know that there is technology being included into activity and into engagement, but whether or not robots will be in taking over ECE jobs, I don't really know what that looks like yet, what that may or may not look like, and how that will be incorporated more into how we work alongside robots in that industry. So Eunice has asked about the fashion industry. So, there's already some really, really great things happening with the fashion industry in terms of things like wearable technology. There's a lot of, sustainable fashion conversations happening now, and there's a lot of new and emerging conversations happening around what do we do with all of the textile that we have, and how can we repurpose it in the future. And in what ways can we be more mindful about the way that we consume fashion. There's so many great conversations that does include disruption and new ideas and new ways of thinking that that you should definitely check out and learn more about. Arash, definitely, HR is a little bit more my wheelhouse. That's what I studied. The conversation around disruption in HR right now is a lot of what we used to do as HR professionals in terms of more, the paper pushing aspect to we're not doing as much of that because we have so many great tools at our disposal to do some of that work that is so time consuming, the payroll aspect of it. Um, the talent management aspect of it, using applicant tracking systems to assist with the recruitment process. There's so many tools that we are using in the work that we do to work much faster, to be able to get through the recruitment process faster, or to oversee compensation in a more effective way using digital tools. There's a lot more AI and virtual reality options in training and development, right? So there's a lot of really great things happening in HR for you to check out as well. You're welcome, Eunice. Absolutely. Again, it's just, start doing some research and go down a rabbit hole of what's going on right now. There's so many interesting conversations happening in every industry right now, especially because of COVID is making folks think about their industry in a different way and having to approach new problems in a different way. You're welcome, Arash. So how about so Lindley asked about the game industry. That's such a great question because right now gamification is happening in so many other industries that really I think the game industry is expanding outwards. There's gamification in business and in development. There's gamification in you know therapies, right? In physiotherapy or even in other types of therapy, there's more gamification happening there. The video game industry in and of itself is really running strong right now. I don't think there's any issues there that you have to worry about. But as I said, go and do some research about what is going on with those with that industry right now. What challenges are they facing? What new industries are they starting to work alongside and partner with organizations in different areas that they weren't really involved in before? It's a really exciting time for folks who are in the game field, I think. You're welcome. And then Stephen is asking about sports industry. That's not something I know as much about, but I do know that there with all of the emergence in esports, and especially again with COVID right now, there isn't a lot happening on fields and on rinks. So the sports industry, I think right now is looking at, can they come back to gameplay safely? How can they run the business in a way that is safe for the players and for the staff and for the management? How does esports now come into play and maybe dominate in the meantime? I don't know, there's so many great conversations again that you can look into and find out, what is happening in the sports industry? What are they talking about right now? And how are they addressing trying to come back to gameplay in a way that's safe? You're welcome. So Neil says, I've seen some leagues have been doing extensive testing and isolation now. Yes, exactly, because it's such a close contact profession to be in, that it really does require a lot of that extra testing, and just being mindful of taking care of your players, your management, all of the staff who are involved in sporting events, just making sure that everybody is safe right now until until we get to a time where we can come back to gameplay safely in whatever way that looks like. That may look very different from the way that we have seen it in the past. You're very welcome, Eunice. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you everyone for joining. If nobody has any other questions, I think we're going to wrap up. Again, if there's any, you're absolutely welcome, Neil. You're very welcome. Congratulations on joining the game programming program. That's fantastic. Well done. You're welcome, Ricardo. You're welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. If you do have more questions or if you do want more information like this, do make sure that you follow us on Instagram at CareersGBC. We run a number of different events there, and we also promote whenever we're doing webinars like this or other info sessions and events. So please do stay tuned for those things. Stay safe, wear a mask, wash your hands, and I hope to see you whether on screen or on campus sometime soon.